Hello.
Hey, Denny.
Yes.
Hey, this is Fred McCoy. I was calling you from Kentucky. How you today, buddy?
Okay.
Good. Hey, I was reading this TBI file about or the Chief of Police, Kirkpatrick, telling you to that he told Buford to keep his mouth shut. And I was just curious to see if that was a true statement they put in there, or if that was something they just typed up.
I told them that somebody had told me that, and I'm not going to swear that the chief told me that, but anyhow, that the word I got came from it. But whether it's true or not, I don't know.
Sure, but you never did tell them that it was the chief?
No.
Did you ever tell anybody? Did you ever report that to the police or the sheriff or the TBI that?
Oh, they all knew it.
I mean, but did you ever specifically yourself do that?
I don't think so.
Well, did you?
I didn't know it was true.
That's what I was going to say. Did you? Because if you thought it was true, surely you would have reported it. Of course,
Yeah,
sure. Okay,
yeah.
That was my question, because I know they've put a lot of stuff in this report that doesn't seem to be correct, and a lot of it.
There'll be another book or another movie. It's a bunch of bull.
Yeah.
They weren't even supposed to show, according to what they're told us. Nobody. This was confidential. How confidential was it?
Yeah. No, this was all about getting some attention, I believe.
Yeah.
So, well, that was my question. When I was reading over your report, I thought to myself, no, there's not a sane person out there that if somebody told them something and they really believe this, that they wouldn't go to a police agency, somebody, and report it rather than wait 58 years later to make that statement.
Right.
And then I seen where even the agent that interviewed you, he put his thoughts in there and says that he smirked or he grinned or something, that he like he was telling that it was Kirkpatrick. But you can't go by that on a statement as a police officer or investigator, how somebody smirks or smiles or anything else. If they tell you they're not going to tell you the name of the person. Hey, is that police chief still alive, or do you know?
Oh no, he's been dead for years.
Sure. See, that's what gets.
He was a close friend of mine.
Was a good friend.
He was our sheriff and road commissioner for years.
Wow, that's interesting.
And highway patrolman. He was highway patrolman before he was sheriff.
What about that? Well, again, it's putting stuff in the statements. I've seen where several people, and when you're getting things third party, or you're getting things that says, I heard this, but I'm not going to tell you where I heard it from, that's not even worth putting into a report, see? That's nothing more than a rumor. Okay, well, listen, pal, I hope you're doing good, and it was good talking to you. You've been very nice and helpful.
Okay, bud.
Bye, pal.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Unbelievable, guys. Unbelievable. There's Mr. Dennie Howell. I actually didn't think nobody would answer. I would have gave a brief synopsis before I called, but I didn't think I would get an answer, to be honest. Very interesting. That was my question, because had he said that he actually believed that, then I was going to ask him, he helped cover up a homicide, if that's true. If he actually believed what these agents wrote down on that paper, then, and he didn't report it to nobody, then he would be as guilty of covering up the homicide as Buford Pusser or anybody else. He said he didn't believe it. He didn't believe it then, and that's why he didn't even tell him the name of the person. Again, they say that they think that it was, and they put this in their report, if you can believe this. They put in their report that Chief Kirkpatrick, now this guy was a sheriff of highway patrol. I don't know him. I didn't even know he was already deceased, but I could have guessed it, because everybody that's in the TBI's report is coming from Mike Elam's book. And everybody in Mike Elam's podcast, his book, his bus tours, that he says anything about, they're deceased. I cannot believe that the TBI bought what Mike Elam was selling. I really cannot believe that. And Dennis Hathcock. Dennis Hathcock is a witness, a material witness in some sort of way to what took place back then. He followed Buford around that night. It just happens to be an ambush the following morning, within hours of when he stopped following them. There happened to be an ambush. Just a coincidence. Just a coincidence that a few months earlier, his aunt, who was good to him, and just a few months earlier, she had been killed by Buford Pusser, and now Buford's wife is killed. Is it his grandfather? W.O., Dennis's grandfather or father, one or the other, had been charged with another murder, another homicide, or would be in the future. I'm not sure on the date on this. The Hathcocks was some bad people back then. You've got a Hathcock still living today to be interviewed that says he found the brains, the skull. Says that he's the one that went and told everybody where the casings were at. At the second, they didn't know about the second place. Nobody would have ever discovered that there was a second ambush sighting because Buford couldn't talk. He's already in the hospital medicated. Nobody would have ever known about that, or at least for a long time, but he's the one who went down there and said, hey, follow me up here. I found some casings. I found some head up here. Is that not suspicious, or is it just me and Sheila? Is it just us? Ricky Plunk has got a gun that's supposedly stolen from O'Neill Moffett. O'Neill Moffat's actually pled guilty and been discharged for stealing guns from the military. 46 shotguns, 8 M1 rifles. He's actually been charged, pled guilty, been discharged from the military. And this is supposed to be one of the guns that they got from O'Neill Moffett, Ricky Plunk's father, P.D. Plunk, a law enforcement officer, a police officer, in possession of what he's believing is a stolen gun and what we believe is a stolen gun. What we believe that was more than likely used in the ambush. We believe it was used in the ambush. We don't believe it's the bullets that went through and penetrated her head, because the autopsy itself says that was a high-velocity round. We see by the results that they did on their testing that the .30 caliber bullet was not penetrating all the way through Pauline's head or the dummy's head, and it wouldn't have hers neither. Those bullets would have remained in her head. It's not adding up, guys. You've got a TBI report that was come from a Mike Elam's book, from Mike Elam's podcast. They have been manipulated by a little old man that used to be a loss prevention officer that has spoken into history with his, what he calls illusionary truth, where he tells you something so much that you begin to believe it. We believe, Sheila and I believe, truth through proof. Truth through proof. On this statement right here that I'm going over, according to McLean, Dennis Howell told him that Sumner Police Chief Hugh Kirkpatrick once told him that when he, Kirkpatrick, got Pusser stopped in the morning on August the 12th, 1967, Pusser looked at Kirkpatrick and said, I did it. And Kirkpatrick told Pusser, keep your blank mouth shut. The following brief synopsis of an audio recorded interview. That audio recorded interview is probably from Elam, Mike Elam. You know, even this gentleman right here, when I talk to him, now he's elderly. He's elderly. There's no need in me trying to, reminds me a little bit of myself. No need in me trying to drill him, but people says a lot of things when they don't think nothing's going to come of it, when they don't think their name's going to be mentioned. A lot of this came about during the Hatfield McCoy feud days, There was a Kentucky Hatfield that spoke up and told one of the reporters way back then a big story. It wasn't true, but he didn't know his name was going to be in that book. He didn't know it was ever going to come back on him. And when it come back and he realized that his story had been printed and that people knew that he had lied, it hurt. He said, I didn't know. He told me he was never going to put my name in that book. Well, he did. It's funny how people doesn't care to say things about people if they think they're going to be anonymous. They're going to remain. This guy here says, Mr. Howell, that none of that was supposed to be put in that report. They wasn't supposed to, that was supposed to be private. It doesn't matter if it's going to be private or not. We should tell the truth. See, this Kirkpatrick guy, police chief, highway patrol, a sheriff, good reputation more than likely. His reputation's been tarnished because if Buford told him, I did this, and he actually believed that enough to tell Mr. Howell or anybody else, then he helped cover up a murder. Again, Sheila and I, we're not covering for Buford. We're not taking up for Buford. We're not. But if they did this, I don't believe that Buford said that. I think Buford was in shock. I don't think Buford knew what was going on with the loss of blood at that point in time and from pulling off. The following is a brief synopsis of the recorded statement interview of Mr. Howell. On December the 28th, 2023, this synopsis is not verbatim. See, guys, when you see a police agency, especially nowadays, now back in the old days, we had to sit and listen to a recorder, write it out, listen to a recorder, write it out, stop it, pause it, write it out, then take it and get a secretary to transcribe it. It was hard to do. Nowadays, you just hit on your computer, transcribe, and it will transcribe every line. But the TBI says that this synopsis is not verbatim. Why not? Why not? If we want to skip over it and we think, oh, that's nonsense, we don't want to read that. But is it verbatim? My take on it is that it's verbatim because they wanted to cover up. They wanted to make it look worse than it was. This is a lie. This is false. This is like everything else from Mr. Davison and Mr. Roush, in my opinion, and all these other people, and you can see it in the reports, you can see it through their so-called expert witnesses. You can see the narrative that's been followed. They have one quest here, one quest, and that is to prove their case against Buford Pusser. They can't prove it. They can't prove it with fact. They can't prove it with evidence. Only thing they have is these two women that says so-and-so out in the middle of the parking lot at 4 o'clock in the morning. What in the world is two dignified, decent women doing in a parking lot of a bar and grill at 4 o'clock in the morning? I can tell you, but I won't. I wasn't born yesterday. Anybody out there that wasn't can tell you if they were there at that time. Can you believe that they were sober enough to know what was going on? Can you believe that they were telling the truth? Can you believe that there wasn't something else going on, that they didn't even have their mind on nothing else? That this is all third party, third, fourth, fifth party, some of it. This guy says he didn't say this. The agent reviewed, according to produce this summary, the audio recording should be reviewed in its entirety. The TBI says this recording should be reviewed in its entirety. Okay, where's it at? Why didn't you transcribe it verbatim so we could review it in its entirety? This is a sham, guys. This is why people look at police officers and investigators like they do, and prosecutors like they do nowadays. 2025. We trust the police and we trust the prosecutors about as much as we trust Al Capone. Sad to say, but it's work like this that causes us to do that. Somewhere down through there, I can't see it. The copy I've got is blacked out, and it's got these arrows and stuff on it. Approximately Denny O'Neill at so-and-so. After proper identification and explanation, interviewed Denny O'Neill voluntarily provided the following information. And then they go on to say how provided that Hugh Kirkpatrick told him personally. Howell grinned when he made that statement, seemingly indicating that Hugh Kirkpatrick did tell him that, and Kirkpatrick was on duty that morning of the shooting happened. But he grinned real big. He didn't want to tell them the name of who told him that, and they asked him if it was Hugh Kirkpatrick. He grinned real big, so they took that grin to mean you just heard his voice. You just heard him. Now, Mike Elam can have a tape of him. The TBI can have a tape of him. Guys, I advise everybody, anybody that's still alive, especially if you're in Adamsville and you recognize any of these names, I would advise you to, while these people are still alive, to go talk to them, to go interview them. Don't take the TBI's word for what they put in this report. Definitely don't take Mike Elam. Well, definitely don't take either one of them, because the TBI, sad to say, has copied Mike Elam's book verbatim. They've just changed it, or they may have even gone out and talked to the same people with what Mike Elam told them, so they could say they talked to them personally. But he says he didn't tell them no name, and they said there that didn't tell them the name, but he grinned when he made the statement, seemingly indicating that Hugh Kirkpatrick did tell him. When did we become genies or fortune tellers? When did police officers become fortune tellers that we could go on the stand? They convicted this man at that press conference of murder. They convicted him on that stand when they said he murdered his wife. We can get an indictment. Getting an indictment is not getting a conviction. But even when they said that, they convicted Buford Pusser in people's minds. In public opinion, they convicted Buford Pusser of murder. With no more evidence than you've got that I killed Pauline Pusser. This is a prosecutor and the director of the TBI. Tennessee should be embarrassed. They should be so embarrassed that you've got these two people. You guys should be protesting in the streets. You guys should be protesting to the governor. You guys should be, this is not legal, guys. This is malicious prosecution. This is false. This is everything that the justice system, the criminal justice system, is against. We can't just go out and make accusations toward people and falsely accuse them of murdering somebody. When you're in that position, I'm a YouTuber. I'm a YouTuber, a 40-year career police officer who is now a YouTuber. And you can sit here on the telephone and you can Google these people and find their numbers and call them. And most of them are just like Mr. Howell. They'll talk to you. Just like they talk to these guys. They talked to these guys under anonymity. They didn't think they were ever going to be exposed or say anything. And he still didn't. He says he didn't tell them no names. He didn't mention no names. They come up with that themselves. And then they say, he grinned, so we took it. This man's 80 or 90 years old. This is an old man. You've got seasoned investigators that could manipulate or take an interview or an interrogation in the direction they want to take it. I'm not going to drag it out. Guys, anybody that's still alive out there on these reports, no matter what the TBI says in their statements, no matter what, especially Mike Elam says in his books or his statements. Seen a tape the other day where he taped some kind of news reporter who was best friends with Warren Jones. He taped him, and he's best friends with Warren Jones, and then he says, well, I cut some of this out. Some of it didn't mean nothing. Some of it, so I cut that. Why did you cut it out? Don't ever cut nothing out of a statement. Play a statement in its entirety. If you want to tape somebody, don't tape a little bit. It's like the guy that had me, where I'm saying I got dementia. I couldn't remember a thought. And my joke always was that, oh, I've got dementia. I hate dementia. And here he makes a video and says, Fred's got dementia. That's how you can do when you just take spots. These guys have got to transcribe. They could have transcribed everything that was said here on anybody. Mike Elam had this reporter best friends with Warren Jones, and he says, yeah, I agree with this. And then he says, well, I'm not putting the rest of it. The rest of it's just mumble jumble. Put the mumble jumble, Mike. Let's see all of it. Let's see the mumble. It may be mumble jumble to you, but to us it might be him saying, now this is just my opinion. I have no evidence, and I know Warren Jones hated Buford Pusser, and I knew Warren Jones had left the FBI under suspicious circumstances. I know that he couldn't account for working for the FBI and having any kind of credibility. There's things that we don't know about Warren Jones to this day. Is that something in that interview that reporter told him about Warren Jones that would have been an interest to us people that wants the truth? Not Pusser fans, just people that wants to know the truth. I believe it would have. I can go on and on. Thanks, guys. Catch you next time.